Hey everyone, welcome back with Beano Mac, where today we're going to continue our playthrough of Plants vs. Zombies Replanted, the recently released HD upgrade to, the original Plants vs. Zombies, which was actually released in 2009. Indeed. So, we're just continuing, adventure mode. It's only the second episode. We're doing the episodes, 5 levels at a time here, so we're doing 6 through 10 here. And, I'm gonna try and, like I have been trying to mix up, what I do in each level and stuff like that to kind of hopefully give a unique, I guess I can't really say a unique play style, but, try and just mix in as many plants as I can and really utilize, all the new plants I get for each level and stuff like that. But, as you can tell, there's also, like, another plant, the snow pea. I don't know what happened, but I actually accidentally lost the footage of the first one. It just stopped recording randomly at the beginning of the level, so unfortunately, kind of spoiled the surprise as to what what I would have gotten after completing this level. But as a rule, I'm just not going to use the snow pea for this one. Kind of hopefully replicate what the level looks like without it. But I think after this, I should be able to start choosing my plants from now on, but, we'll see. It looks like I got 6 slots. But figured it might as well go into the question of the day. I don't think I did one for last week. That said, this week, I'm going to ask, what is your favorite zombie game? I don't know if I've asked that before, but, we're asking it this week. But what is your favorite zombie game? And Miscellaneous Monday has had so many already. So there's we've had the Resident Evil playthroughs. I've done the first 2 games and Resident Evil Outbreak. So those are always classic zombie games. That's what Resident Evil is great in my opinion. People say survival horror, this or that. For me, it's zombies. That's what always has drawn me back into the series. It's the zombies, not necessarily the horror elements of it, but I do prefer when it is kind of, spooky, a little chilling, some might say. That's kind of what draws me in. House of the Dead, that's a classic in, zombies, zombie gaming and stuff like that, and it's really cool that we've gotten those remakes. I'm not sure, I think the second one came out, but I don't think it was as popular as the first one, so I don't know how well that did sales wise, and I'm not sure if we're gonna get any more of those zombie House of the Dead games. But that's kind of like, it's cool because that's a like a zombie game where it's not them like eating flesh or anything like that. They're just they're monsters and they kind of just want to kill people, and I think that was kind of before, even though that we had like the Dawn of the Dead and all that stuff, that zombies eating people and stuff like that. It was kind of cool that we kind of had those just zombies that were monsters that were trying to attack people rather than eat them, which I don't know. I don't know. Zombies, I think, also work just so well in horror, and I think a lot of times, it's kind of almost been played out to a degree. I think like the 2010s when they did like the Call of Duty zombies and stuff like that. Then I think other games started to do zombie stuff, and Walking Dead came out, and zombies really got popular around that time. People kind of thought they were played out a little bit. For me personally, I feel as though, when you really think about it, I think zombies are the most, like, actually terrifying end result when it comes to that stuff. Because, I mean, like, being eaten alive, like, yeah, that'd be, that has got to be the worst way to go. Because, I mean, that's got to be a very painful end, where I feel like the majority of other kind of monsters, it's either ambiguous or it's a type of, just generic killing method or something like that. Slasher villains also are a pretty crazy one, Freddy Krueger killing you in your dream, or I guess your nightmare. I mean, that's also probably one of the best ones. As far as, just the sheer terror it can invoke. And I don't know, does not, I mean, the first few Nightmare on Elm Street, man, I mean, they made it seem like it was awful. Although I have no idea what the deal was with, you know, freaking, I think it was Johnny Depp at the time? I think he was in the first one. He's like the, you know, he wasn't a big deal at the time, but he was like the first big name that everybody remembers being in that movie. It was some big name actor, I think it was him. Where he just suddenly gets sunk into the mattress and then just the pool of blood piles up. I don't know, it's pretty memorable for I think a lot of people, but when you really think about it, it's like, what the hell happened there, you know? It's like they didn't know how, they couldn't think of a creative way to kill him off, so they just, you know, put some crazy effect in there, which, I mean, it works. I mean, like I said, everybody, I think that's one of the most memorable scenes in that movie for a lot of people. And then, of course, you know, even when you kind of think about it, even Plants vs. Zombies probably to a degree contributed to that, you know, a lot of that, you know, overstimulation when it came to the zombie media at the time, because this came out 2009. I think it was what, like 2012, I think Black Ops came out. I think even before that, like Call of Duty, they had like World at War was the first one. They had like the Nazi zombies and stuff like that, which I think it was just kind of like that's what it exclusively was known as for like the first like 1 or 2 entries, and I think they just kind of went to, you know, just zombies in general after that. I remember Black Ops 2 was a really big deal when they had the zombies mode in that, but I mean, even I'm not a Call of Duty guy, I'm not a first-person shooter kind of guy, even in the absolute slightest. I am so freaking cheeks and poops at those games, I don't even give it the time of day. Like, you know, I mean, even I was playing, you know, Black Ops, zombie mode and stuff like that back in the day. I actually had a little bit of an interest in even trying the series and stuff like that, just because of like that game mode and stuff like that, because I was like, alright, you know, now I'm interested in seeing what else there is and stuff. But I think they even had the Dead Ops arcade and stuff too. I mean, this is awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. But even then, I mean, I probably wouldn't even play it to this day. Even then, I was also really terrible at it. Like, I could only get past, like, at most I could get to like maybe round 5 or something by myself, and then like if I didn't have somebody who was actually good at it, we were not getting past you know, round 10 or anything like that. So I mean, I was as cheeks as you could ever imagine at you know, first person games. Usually I have like a strategy where I put like you know, a plant that I think we're gonna get next in like the 3rd spot, but we'll see. Got these pole vaulters now that we gotta deal with. Plants vs. Zombies, apparently I actually just read the other day, this was actually in development for 4 whole years before that came out in 2009. So it was worked on since like 2005, and yeah, PopCap Games, like I mentioned before, had such like really good PC titles and games and stuff like that, and I think like I said, Plants vs. Zombies kind of came out at like the absolute like perfect time it probably could have to explode in popularity like it did, because you know, it had already kind of built up the company quite a bit with, you know, quality games. But even on top of that, you know, it was like around that time with the, you know, zombies really getting popular in media as well. And, you know, it was probably like, I think, you know, around this time, they had things like, you know, Angry Birds and, jeez, when was Flappy Bird introduced? I think that was quite a few years later, actually, I was thinking of. But, you know, Angry Birds, I think, was kind of like the first big app game and stuff like that. And I think this was right around the time, right before, you know, like just a few years before app games really took off. And I think that that's kind of what doomed PopCap games in a lot of ways, and why they had to sell off and stuff was, you know, just the rise of app games. Because, I mean, these were all used to just be PC games, and, you know, you could tell they had a lot of passion in them and stuff like that. You know, you had, like I said, I mean, there's Peggle, which is always a great time. Chuzzle was pretty awesome. You know, that's, I think, I forget, I may have actually even played that before Plants vs. Zombies, thinking back on it. You know, because my grandfather owned it, and it was just like a cute, fuzzy puzzle game. But man, it's crazy because Plants vs. Zombies, for the most part, is honestly a pretty easy game. Until you get to like those really intense levels later on, which honestly aren't even really in adventure mode. But, you know, like all its puzzle games like Zuma, Chuzzle, Peggle, they're very simple, like even simpler than Plants vs. Zombies. But man, they get hard really quickly after like, you know, the 20th level. I mean, they really... Sometimes they really just feel like luck-based games at times. But, I mean, maybe that's just because I'm cheeks, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Chuzzle, Zuma's Revenge was always a great one too. Peggle, you know, I mentioned before, and it's just, I don't know, those are the type of games I feel like would thrive in, you know, the App Store type games too anyway. Which, I mean, I've looked it up on the App Store to see, like, if they even have those games, and they do, and, you know, they got, like, you know, 10 million downloads and stuff like that for around each game, and, you know, Plants vs. Zombies got, like, you know, I think, like, 100, not 500, but, like, 100 million downloads and stuff like that. It's crazy. So, I don't know, I mean, I think they, you know, they were struggling. I think it was EA that really needed to help them get into that mobile market, but I think also... It's kind of one of those things. I don't know. I haven't played these new games. But a lot of people say a lot of the passion was kind of missing once EA bought them. I don't know how true that is. But, you know, like... People said that, like, you know, all the top developers of PopCap games kind of left and stuff. And that things haven't been the same with the games. But, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, they seem to be doing pretty well these days. Oh, it's pretty crazy. Like, this was a tower defense game, and I think eventually, like, Plants vs. Zombies, they just turned into like a weird first-person shooter. I think it was like Garden Warfare, and I thought, like, oh man, this is the... When it came out, this is the death of the series. It's cheeks, it's poop. What are they doing with this franchise? But I think that game actually did pretty well sales-wise, and I've even heard, like, you know, my you know, nephews and nieces and stuff were pretty into it, so it was pretty popular with kids, I think. So, you know, once again, I mean, it seemed like they were doing something right there, even if I have no interest in it. It looks a little too odd for me, personally. And like I said, I don't freaking do I don't even think it's first-person shooter. Maybe it is. I can't remember off the top of my head, but for the most part, yeah, I'm just not a shooter guy, you know. Even Resident Evil, like the early ones, I just liked it because... You know, it was pick a direction, you know, just a general direction at the monsters, and then just shoot, you know? You didn't really have to aim. And even I think most of the games in America, actually, I think they just had auto aim for the most part if you were close enough. But even then, I mean, I actually like the remakes a lot and stuff too. So, I mean, there's a few shooter games, you know, but... You know, it just kind of depends on how interested I am in the franchise. Like, I did not really have, even that, I can't get into, like, Resident Evil 4, I can't get into, you know, I've even done co-op with a friend in Resident Evil 5, and I just couldn't get into it, but Resident Evil 6, on the other hand, the one that everybody hates, I actually love that game. And I think I like it for the reasons why everybody doesn't like it, is because it's such an action-heavy game, there's always something going on. Whereas in 4 and 5 especially, it's just like, man, these are the same locations. It's just, what's the atmosphere here? It's just sand. And yeah, we only got like halfway through the game, so we didn't see any of the, what I imagine would be more interesting set pieces and stuff like that. Even though I mean, I guess the area where you go and you go to those like various docks and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. You fight like the savages and stuff. But I don't know, I think it's funny even to this day, people are talking about... Well, it's not even really a big debate, actually. It's just kind of like... If people want attention, whether it's like some publication website that knows it's going to get clicks off of, you know, angry people defending the game, or if it's just, you know, some goofball that's just trying to get attention on Twitter or something. They say, yeah, you know, Resident Evil 5 is racist because Chris Redfield shooting black people in Africa, you know, the stupid arguments. Everybody, it's funny because, like, we have had, like, almost 30 plus years of trolling on the internet these days, and you would think that people would understand, and I think the vast majority of people do understand when they see it, but people are just so desperate to just be heard regardless, even if they know it's trolling, or they just want to, you know, kind of in the opposite way, you know, like, oh, this person, you know, is trying to say something to get attention, or say something to, man, I just put that in the wrong spot. But, you know, say something to get attention and just, you know, make people angry or whatever. It's kind of the same thing when people respond. I get the feeling it's like, oh man, you know, this is my time to shine and correct this goofball, this moron, you know, so I look like the hero online and stuff like that. And I don't know, if it's just one thing I've learned online, it's just you never want to, don't engage with trolls and stuff like that, because honestly, you know, most of the time they just make you look like an idiot because they look like such an idiot in responses and stuff. They'll say something stupid, they intentionally just try and piss people off, and they, you know, either the response is complete nonsense, or it's just something like, you know, where they're just such assholes, where it's like you feel like an idiot just for trying to respond to them in the first place, not because, you know, oh, they got you with this, or, you know, they made you look like an idiot with your point, but because they make themselves look like an idiot with the way they respond and stuff like that. And I think I've already talked in the past about, like, one or two, you know, trolls I've dealt with, and, you know, negative comments and stuff like that. And like I said, I don't think I've ever even had, like, a negative comment when someone wasn't either just looking, like, I don't think, it's pretty rare when I get constructive criticism. And, you know, which is a good thing, because usually, I mean, people don't complain about anything, you know. The most I've gotten is that people aren't a fan of my voice. They say I'm just too monotone, which is what it is. But what gets me is the it's just like you can tell right away when someone's just trying to irritate you, and that's from, like, you know, Reddit or on my YouTube videos, or just a generic conversation or something like that on, you know, in a comment section on YouTube or something like that. I remember I even had one time, it was like, I think it was just like some video, like Family Guy making fun of King of the Hill. So it was like I don't even remember what the clip was about exactly, but it was actually like a full-on, like, animated King of the Hill scene, but it was in like a Family Guy thing, and it looked really good. And I just made like a comment saying, you know, it's crazy how this looks better than the freaking revival. And I still actually think it does. And, you know, I just got, like, you know, half the comments were people agreeing with me, and the other half was just people, you know, just saying, oh yeah, you know, making up dumb excuses as to why that is. Or like saying, oh yeah, you know, it just came out and you're just hating on something popular. And it's so funny to me when you find that the majority of arguments that come from people that are willing to actually respond to any kind of criticism, it's not ever usually directed at the criticism or what you say. It's something like, oh, well, that's just a popular thing to do, so I'm not going to take you seriously, or, you know, something like that. Or, oh, even kind of with, like, games, like, if you like an old game, it's got to be because of nostalgia, right? Like, it's kind of interesting just how purposely ignorant it seems that a lot of people are when it comes to addressing topics or debating things and stuff like that. And the people that it seem like they are the most willing to kind of go out there and debate you on things or talk to you and try and have that kind of conversation with you, a lot of times, in my experience online, and I mean that online, and in real life it's a lot different, you know. I'm not gonna say I've met some real morons in my life that have pissed me off, because you're just like, there's no way, you know, some of the stupidest people I've ever met are out of, you know, off the internet. But for the most part, obviously, the majority of people you meet in real life, they actually come across as people, if that makes sense. Where a lot of time with the internet, they don't really come across as people. They might just have like, they come across as a stereotype more often on the internet than they do in real life, if that makes sense. You know, where you expect those you can hear one answer from them and it seems like you already expect what that stereotypical, you know, what's gonna come next and the stereotypical response of what you have to say and all this or that and whatever. Whereas with real life, you know, you actually understand people seem more like human beings with, you know, dimensions and actual, you know, personalities is what I mean to say. Whereas online, it seems less the case, and the people are just kind of spouting nonsense for the sake of it. And it probably comes from that anonymity and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it seems like on the internet, like the people with the most ignorant takes are always seemingly the most willing to kind of go out there and share that opinion, which I guess makes sense. Ignorant takes, you know, lack of self-awareness and stuff like that kind of goes hand in hand. Alright, we got a freaking straggler here. But I mean, thankfully in my corner of the internet here, I have not had to deal with too much of that nonsense and stuff like that. And I think it just comes down to the, you know, for the most part, obviously on this channel I don't get too many crazy views or whatever, but I remember one video, I think I uploaded, it was just back when I was uploading like the final smashes and stuff like that for Smash Ultimate. And I remember some guy just randomly said something along the lines of, like, it was just like a final smash of like Ness's finish or something, and he was just like, man, you know, what a complete waste of you know, time this is, or something like that. You're a complete loser, you know, this is what you do with your time. You know, you know, you can't do anything constructive in life or this or that. I'm just thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? What the hell is wrong with some people? Like, what causes this kind of thinking? You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like a sensical kind of anger to anything like that. You know, I've had like boomers that, you know, have seen me play games and stuff like that, and say, like, you know, not giving me as harsh of or hard of a time as you know, like this guy has with his weird, you know, takes and stuff like that. And it was just so funny. And then like that, another guy just commented, dude, it ain't that serious. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, people are just weird, you know. It is sad that on the one hand the guy's looking really hard to try and just you know, put somebody down for no reason over something nonsensical, but that kind of stuff is just too good in my opinion. Alright, that was definitely not my intention there. Yeah, these levels are pretty cool and nice, but I feel like they kind of, it makes it like idiot proof though too, you know. Like, it's fun to kind of just have all the nonsense going on and stuff like that, but they also just kind of make it a little too easy. Like, I've never been in danger on one of these you know, level 10s, because they give you everything you need right away, you know. Like, it's impossible to lose unless you try. But that said, I mean, they still are pretty fun, especially when you're kind of like first starting in the game. But I don't know. The final one is actually like the only one where you're kind of like, okay, this is if you don't play your cards right, things can go wrong pretty quickly. But we'll get there, you know, you guys will see, we'll get there. You know, we just gotta keep going. Yeah, jump over that, chump. Man, look at the devastation, the destruction. They can't even make it past the first square. Alright, that guy made it past the first square. Oh man, actually he even ate one. Boy, I think I might have a full yard out, you know, before this is done. Just to finish eating and you already got another guy. Boy, this is crazy. Oh, this bucket has might pose a problem though. Good thing we got those walnuts. But yeah, I think we're gonna save that cherry bomb for the, you know, the wave, the final wave. Oh boy, they got through one. Man, I love just seeing, like, you know, these the zombies getting demolished by like 10 pea shooters. It's so satisfying to watch. See if this guy can just make it until he gets to an explode. You know, the potato mine rises up and explodes. One thing I don't like about this version, it was I think it was every version after the PC version or whatever, is they add those freaking you know, the shrubs at the beginning where it used to be you could just see the zombies coming before that. And yeah, I was never the biggest fan of that because I don't know, I prefer to see them right straight away on the screen. But oh, we got a little straggler. That said though, folks, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, check out next week's episode on Miscellaneous Monday, but above all else, please remember to have a nice day.